What's up, Internet? I'm back with another Before Eternity review. This time it's going to be taking a look at the Star Wars The Black Series Republic Commandos. I've only got Boss and Sev right now because Fixer is still too overpriced. Scorch hasn't even been revealed yet. And I'm really just going to be talking about how these figures are so hated because they're Hunter repaints and everything. And I'm going to be talking about whether if that hate is deserved and if these figures are actually good or not. And I've got these vintage collection Mandalorians here, the Costco Reeves, Axe Woves, and the Death Watch Mandalorian, just as a bit of a tease for my next video. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get on to those Commandos. The packaging is just the normal Black Series Gaming Grades packaging that we've been getting for a while. There's the art on the side and the name. They do put their Republic Commando names like RC1138 for Boss. You get that Gaming Grades logo. And then at the back of the box, we got a larger photo of the art. We got the Black Series logo again, and then we've got the description just for the Republic Commando game. As you can see, it is number 7 in the Gaming Grades lineup. The Sev packaging is identical aside from the art and some of the text. Of course, have the different name and everything. That's what the art on the side looks like. Then on the back, we got the Republic Commando logo. He does have a bit of a different description, saying that he's basically just the sniper of the squad, and then you can see he's number 11. Obviously, these are not the most accurate versions of the figures that Hasbro could have given us. They definitely should have tried a bit harder and come up with a completely new mold so that the figures actually look how they did in the game, which they're marketing them from being in the game and not from the Clone Wars. They look too much like their Clone Wars appearance, which is fine. It's not a bad thing. I just think Hasbro definitely should have gone the extra mile. I agree with all of that and kind of the uproar that's going on around with these figures. But if you didn't know, the Gaming Greats line is basically the budget line. And honestly, I think we're lucky that we're getting Delta Squad at all. Imagine if there was no Bad Batch, and imagine if Hasbro had never made the Black Series Hunter figure. I doubt they would have gone on and made a unique mold just for the Republic Commando figures. I'm not going to try and justify what they did. They are kind of butchered. I still like these figures, but once again, they're just not what they should have been. I'm sure most people are familiar with the base body and its articulation at this point. The only thing new that we actually get with these Republic Commando figures is the head sculpt and the backpack sculpt, except I may be wrong about the backpack being new. I don't know if that was used by Hunter. I don't have that figure, but we do get accurate backpacks for the Delta Squad. So with the articulation here, it's pretty good. It does everything that it needs to do. I mean, well, that's kind of not very loose right there. If you kind of look inside the joint right there, I don't know if there's a butterfly joint. It seems like there might be, but I can't really get much movement out of it. It's just going to be that ball hinge at the shoulder there that you're going to be able to use. You do get the swivel on the elbow right here. The elbow goes up that much. And then you got the wrist, which this one is the in and out wrist, and of course the swivel on that. With the head articulation, you can get it to go down that much, you can get it to look up that much, and you do get a tilt, and then you do get that back and forth motion right there with the neck joint. So all of that's pretty good. With the chest articulation, you can get it to go down that much, back that much, and then the side to side. Legs will go up this high, and then you can get them to go back a little bit, that much. The knees go like that. Ankles are stiff right now. You can get them to go back that much. And then, of course, you got the thigh cut right here. And I believe, yeah, those are just ball joints, no ball hinges at the hips right there. There's nothing about the articulation here that I dislike or anything that's, wrong or anything like that. But one problem is the shoulder pads, since they are kind of loose on the actual figure. I don't know where they're tabbed in. They seem to be tabbed in just right on top of the joint right there, because they don't even seem like they're connected to the chest piece. But since they are loose, when you lift the arm up, it is going to stay in that position for a while. It's that softer plastic material that's more malleable, and so it is going to be like that. So if you want it in a neutral pose, that's kind of annoying. Talking about the overall sculpt of the figure, which is when things get interesting, yeah, it is way too skinny and, I guess, nimble looking to be a Republic Commando. They did kind of look like that in the Clone Wars. I'll probably throw up an image for that. They did look more skinny. And once again, if they were released in the Clone Wars line and they had, more accurate armor on them, because even some of their armor like that they have with this mold is not accurate, not just with the proportions, but also like with this region of the chest right here, right below the neck, you have this curve, and this whole thing should be taken out. It should just be like below here, and then underneath should be like the black undersuit with the layers and things like that. I'll also put up an image for that. But since Hunter doesn't have that, then these figures don't have that, because they literally just repainted it and then added the new helmet and backpack sculpt. It even still has that little peg at the bottom of the gauntlet, so you can put Hunter's like knife sheath thing that he has on the bottom of his wrist, which is unfortunate because these guys don't have that, and so now you just have the annoying hole. Another complaint I have is that the upper arms, that bicep area, just looks a bit too skinny. Once again, if it were Clone Wars, that would make more sense, but it just like they're supposed to be way beefier in the Republic Commando game, which once again, that's what they're advertising that they're from, and that's just not what it looks like we have going on here. Even though there are a lot of problems with the sculpt, we do get good stuff like the backpacks, which looks pretty nice. They have some nice paint apps as well. They peg in nicely at the back right here, just like that. And the helmets also look really good. I've got no problem with the helmet sculpt or anything like that. Another thing that's wrong with these figures, though, would be the paint apps. They're just not that great. Once again, I know they're supposed to be looking more like the Clone Wars, because that just seems to be what they're going with. And you know, I don't think this figure, I don't think Boss looks bad. I don't even think Sev looks bad. Let's go ahead and bring him in. I don't think any of the Republic Commandos that we've seen in the Black Series look bad. I just think you look at them and it's like, you know that they can do better than that. They have done better than that. Boss's paint apps look pretty decent because they're more simple, but with Sev, we're not supposed to really know if that's just like Geonosian blood or just red paint all over his armor. Clearly it's supposed to look like blood, and I'll put up an image of what it's supposed to look like. But here, I still like, I don't think the figure is ruined. It just looks very cartoony. It looks very toyish. It doesn't look like, whoa, the live action interpretation or the more realistic interpretation that we saw with the video game. It doesn't even look as good as it did in the Clone Wars. It looks like crayon on there. It does not look very good. For me, it doesn't ruin it because I'm really just happy to have this figure in the line. But as you can see, Hasbro has done way better with paint apps, especially on clones in the past. We've got the Black Series Commander Bly and Commander Gree here, and they came out a few years ago, and they look way better. And I don't know why. It happens with a lot more than just troopers in the Black Series, but ever since we kind of had that reboot of the line and we had that new packaging come in, the figures just haven't looked as good. I don't think they look terrible, but even with the troopers and with the clones, they just do not look as good as they used to. And maybe we have new molds now that are better and you can get more articulation out of them. But in terms of just the pure look and aesthetic of the older Black Series clone troopers, they just looked better. I mean, these look like they're ripped right off the screen. I remember, you know, this is the Black Series Toys R Us exclusive Gree, and they were, when he came out, they were all like, oh yeah, he's going to be $5 extra because he has all these extra layers of paint and everything. And now we're having to pay basically the same price for this. And I don't know how we've gotten to that point. I know the economy is not in the greatest place, but even then, I would pay like $30, $35 as long as the figure just actually looked good. But now we're just having to pay basically the same prices of what a premium figure was back in the day, and they're looking like this. Yes, I know it's supposed to have more of an animated look. I get that's what they're going for, but I just, like, we should have something looking like Bly or like Gree. This just is what we should be getting. I will once again say, though, I don't think these figures are bad. I don't think the paint jobs are utterly horrible and disgusting. Like, I've seen worse. The paint apps are still clearly printed on there. They're not all, like, scuffy looking and they aren't bleeding over into other parts of the figure where they shouldn't be. They're still, like, cleanly printed on there. It's just they're too simple. It doesn't really look like what we should be getting for a premium, collector's line. The paint apps in the vintage collection look better, which is why I'm excited for the Republic Commandos to come out there, which they probably will because we've already got a Hunter figure coming out in the TVC. I think they're definitely going to look way better in that line. But yeah, you can definitely tell that these are supposed to be based off the Clone Wars appearance. When you look at Sev, he's got that all gray chest piece, which is what the Clone Wars had. And just the overall look of the paint apps look a bit less layered and a bit less realistic, especially when you look at the back. I mean, what is this? It looks like a fruit roll-up has just been plastered on his back. It doesn't look very good, which is, I guess I'm glad why it's on the back. The backpack actually looks decent. I just wish like the rest of the paint on the figure kind of looked like that, especially on the helmet. You do get some other paint apps on there, like some dirt marks, some weathering, stuff like that. You do have the weathering on the red paint and things like that. You get the same thing on Boss, all that kind of battle damage type stuff, except the back is like all clean for some reason. I don't know why. They did the same thing with the Remnant Trooper. It's kind of weird. But this really is kind of a similar situation to that clone ARC Trooper that we got in the Black Series for that Tartakovsky line that I did a video on that. And, it's another situation where we've got inaccurate sculpts, paint apps that aren't really exactly the way they should. And it just seems like Hasbro couldn't really figure out what they wanted to do here. Because while we do get the Clone Wars thing going on, it's also just inaccurate to the Clone Wars because of the sculpts. But once again, at least we are actually getting them in the Black Series, and we probably are going to get them in the Vintage Collection. We've only gotten Delta Squad like once a decade. Back in the 2000s, I think in 2005 with the Saga Collection, we got that one battle pack. That was actually just for the Republic Commando game, and we got all the squad and that, and some Geonosians, I think. Then in 2011 or 2010 or whatever it was, we got another battle pack of Delta Squad where it was the whole team just with new molds. And then we got like that Clone Wars Boss figure that was really bad, and it was just Boss. And then now it seems like with the 2020s, we're just getting them all released separately in the Black Series and hopefully the Vintage Collection too. So I do think it's like some cause to rejoice that we are actually getting them and that they at least look somewhat decent and that they have good articulation. It's just like they're not exactly what they should be. We of course do get the Republic Commando blasters though. With Boss, he just comes with the normal one. It is a bit too small, as you can see. You have it in his hand and it's actually way too small. It looks kind of like a pistol. The Republic Commando blaster is supposed to be much larger, so that's pretty unfortunate. And then we have a bit of a modified version of the normal Republic Commando rifle. It's configured into that sniper mode that Sev has, and once again, it's too small. It does look good, like it's cool that we do finally get a sniper for Sev. There are no paint apps on these guns, but I mean, it's like that's not a surprise at this point with how these figures are. You can get them holding the weapons pretty well, get them in all the poses that you need them to do. They look nice. I mean, just look at that. I mean, I can understand, but I like me, I'm a big Republic Commando fan, and when I see this, it just looks nice. Most people weren't able to get those previous versions of Delta Squad, and now that they're making them come out in the Black Series now, more people are getting them. They're not as rare, and like that's a good thing. The quality is decreased a bit. I mean, we get better articulation, obviously, than those older 3 3/4 inch figures, but the paint apps don't look as good, and these really just come out feeling like the budget figures. Like, Hasbro was like, yo, we don't have too much money to be spending on this line, and so we're just going to reuse a bunch of stuff and come up with some, like, lazy paint app designs and then just throw them into the gaming grades, saying that they're actually from the video game Republic Commando, but really we designed them to look like the Clone Wars because that's the more simplistic look and it's easier to, I guess, I don't know, mass produce or something, and it's cheaper to make. And with characters like Delta Squad that are so popular and have been so anticipated to be brought to the 6-inch scale, I think that was just a bad idea. They should have saved Delta Squad until a time where they really could have put all the money into them that they could, release them in the Clone Wars line or whatever, or maybe just make like a 4-pack or something to where the figures actually could have been what they should have been, with unique new molds and great looking paint apps and weapons. But you know how Hasbro is these days, and that's just not something that they would do. These figures should have been better. Hasbro should have actually tried, but at the same time, it's still pretty great that we're actually getting these figures. Hasbro, I feel like, really would not have gone to something like Republic Commando and actually made figures from those games in either the Vintage Collection or the Black Series if they didn't already have a pre-existing mold from something that was more popular and more relevant that they could have just repainted. But these are still fun, enjoyable figures. You can get them to do a bunch of different stuff with the articulation and everything. And I feel like while the paint apps are lacking, they still look decent enough, at least with how the Black Series has been looking so far. If they had released something like this alongside this Commander Gree or something like it, then yeah, that would be pretty bad. But aside from like that face printing technology, like the Black Series figures just haven't been looking super great in my opinion. Some of them still look pretty good, but you know, we get stuff like this kind of often in the Black Series. I don't think that they deserve like so much hate. They're kind of getting a lot. Some people seem to be okay with them and some people are liking them, but there's other people that are like really upset about this. And I can understand that because I'm also a fan of the game. That's one of my favorite Star Wars games. But I really don't feel like the figures look that terrible. They may not be super accurate to the game, but at least when you put it all together with the proportions and the paint apps and everything, it's still like a decent action figure. Like, it makes sense for what it is. So in conclusion, these figures are good enough. And you can trust my opinion 100% on that because you know me, I am a certified expert at reviewing action figures. I'm always correct. But seriously, if you don't enjoy these figures, I can totally get that. I think there's room for a lot of criticism, but I also think there's room for just being happy that these figures are here and that they're actually not too horrible, at least in my opinion. You know, for me and I guess my own action figure criteria, you know, they're good enough. They do what I need them to do, and they look decent in my own eyes. I also want to thank everyone who's been watching so far. It means a lot. And if you have any suggestions, criticisms, or any ideas, don't be afraid to put them in the comments below. I'm always open to new ideas and legitimate critique and stuff like that. So that about wraps it up for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.